Greetings and salutations, my fellow Americans. I am Robert Vincent Brannum. I am a retired veteran. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, what does it mean to have a covenant? What is a covenant? My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, to many people, a covenant is a chosen relationship or partnership in which two parties make binding promises to each other and to work together to reach a common goal. Some examples of covenants are between a husband and a wife, an employee and an employer, an American military service member and America, or the covenant God made with Noah, Abraham, Israel, and David. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, former President Donald Trump and extreme far-right-wing MAGA Republicans have also made a covenant with lies, racism, bigotry, sexism, vulgarity, and violence. Donald Trump has gone one step further and has shown he has made an alliance with sexually assaulting women. Donald Trump is recorded on tape saying, quote, I automatically am attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the private parts. You can do anything. End quote. Former President Donald Trump has been accused of rape, found liable in 2 sexually assault cases, ordered to pay Ms. E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in damages, called a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a white supremacist, a supporter of vengeance, vulgarity, and violence against Americans, to include military generals. Yet my fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, extreme far-right-wing MAGA Republicans have made a covenant to stand with Donald Trump. Despite truth and evidence, MAGA Republicans worship Donald Trump with his lies, glorification of sexually assaulting women, racism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, bashing of gays, lesbians, transgender, immigrants, and his penchant for vulgarity, violence, and authoritarianism and dictatorship. The flawed, phony, and dishonest political concept pushed by Donald Trump is he alone is the single American who is above the law. Contrary to Donald Trump and MAGA Republican lies, state and federal court judges have ruled there was not any election fraud in the 2020 presidential election, and it was not stolen from Donald Trump. Moreover, judges in federal appeals courts have ruled Donald Trump does not have presidential immunity from criminal prosecution. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, yes, Joe Biden is an octogenarian who has been championing the cause of democracy, equality, justice, and freedom for all his public service life. However, Donald Trump is a fast-approaching octogenarian who has been a liar, a rapist, a racist, a bigot, and a sexist, not only for his adult life, but also more succinctly all his public political life. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, do not forsake the love of democracy and freedom and truth, and lose your memory to all the lies and proven destructiveness of Donald Trump. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, the failure and refusal of the media, MAGA and mainstream, to focus and to call out Donald Trump as a liar, a rapist, a racist, a sexist, a bigot, a supporter of vulgarity and violence, represents a blatant reporting bias and naked dereliction of ethical journalism. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, just as age is a number President Biden cannot avoid, Donald Trump must not and should not avoid answering to and being accountable for his pathological lying, raping, or sexually assaulting women, racism, bigotry, white supremacy, and advocacy of vulgarity and violence. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, I would rather have an octogenarian as President and Commander-in-Chief defending the Constitution and democracy, rather than a liar, a rapist, a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a white supremacist, and an advocate for violence and vulgarity of any age as President and Commander-in-Chief. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, all of media and posters misread the mood of Americans on a possible or a probable rematch of a Biden-Trump election. The opposition is not because of Joe Biden, who should seek re-election. It is because of Donald Trump, who should be in jail. Across media platforms, MAGA and mainstream, the political and legal decadence of Donald Trump is reported as strength, while the legislative and economic successes and accomplishments of President Joe Biden are reported as signs of weakness. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, it is beyond contestation. Donald Trump is a cowardly bully, unfit to hold public office. Those who close their eyes, hold their noses, or smile in agreement to support Donald Trump, rather than stand with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, do not support democracy, are in denial or delusional. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, Donald Trump must not become president, not only because his policies are wrong for America, but also because Donald Trump is unfit for duty. Every day, Donald Trump reveals he cares only about himself, not America, not the Constitution, not democracy, especially not truth. My fellow Americans and my fellow veterans, the facts and truths are these. The economic policies of President Joe Biden and Democrats are working. Interest rates are down. Inflation is down. Unemployment is down. Wages are rising. Rebuilding of America for all Americans is moving forward. And a threat of an American recession is remote. Unless sabotaged by Donald Trump and MAGA congressional Republicans, the overall American economy is booming for all Americans. My fellow Americans, my fellow veterans, and political progressives, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris believe in and support the Constitution, democracy, equality, justice, freedom, and truth. They have earned your trust. They have entered into a righteous covenant with you. Thank you.